Well, hello again. Welcome back, everyone, to the Diversity and Humanity Virtual Summit. So happy to see you here. For those of you who haven't met me yet, I am Kaylee O'Keefe, the founder of Soul Excellence Publishing. And you have been meeting the best-selling authors of the book, Diversity and Humanity, today. But we're going to shake things up for the next 30 or 45 minutes. And I am so excited to introduce you to actually the longest standing Soul Excellence Publishing client and partner and friend. That would be James Jackson III. James, say hello. I'm going to give you a proper intro in just a second, but say hello. Where are you joining us from?
Hey everyone, good to be here. I'm actually joining you from the University of Utah in the professional education classroom. I'm actually taking a lunch break to teach this, to be part of this experience now.
So I absolutely love that. It's like you're teaching students there, you're sharing your wisdom here at the summit on how mentors magnify and allies amplify. Cannot wait. But just by way of introduction, James and I, we go way back really to the origins of Soul Excellence. And I had the pleasure of getting to meet James right in the early stages of the pandemic, where he shared his story in the book Leading Through the Pandemic. And James Jackson is the founder of the Utah Black Chamber, and at the time was also the managing director of it. And as you can imagine, was going through a lot in 2020 as the leader of that organization. And then James, I mean, you had such a vision to then bring your community together in the book Black Utah, which we got to collaborate on, Stories from a Thriving Community, to really paint a pretty different picture than what most of us think about when we think of Utah. And let me just ask you, before I hand you over full reins, like, what was the impact of creating and putting out a book like this over the last year or so?
Wow, it's been pretty incredible. People are still buying this book to this day. It was published in February of 2022. And every year, it remagnifies the influence that the Black community has had. And I always joke around with people, growing up, with the Black Chamber, there was always part of this FTP club or the STP club, same 10 people, right? Because during Black History Month or anything regarding the Black experience, to reach out to the same 10 people all the time. But what this book has introduced the community to is a lot more Black influencers, not just within the book, but it actually even indirectly introduced others to the community. So it's really has elevated just Black influence in Utah, and it's off, from the book, we identified a new president CEO to take over the chamber in April. It only took it was the best investment ever for the Black Chamber, so we can find a replacement for me, right? And she's done an amazing job. Matter of fact, she's grew the chamber another 130% with her engagement and has an amazing vision herself, right? And it's just been so amazing that people, even though the book shows author Utah Black Chamber, they know who the real author is, as much as I try to be the shadow of it all. But it's definitely elevated my platform as people now are more interested in learning about Black Utah.
And I love it so much. You go from, being a co-author in a book to then leading your community in the creation of this book with Soul Excellence Publishing's help. And now you are the forthcoming author of your very own book that you have been working so hard on over many, many months, Living with Purpose, coming out June 16th of this year. Maybe just say a bit more about that before we dig into your talk for today.
Yeah, this is Live with Purpose is like my journey, really, because I went from the shy, introverted Black man born and raised in Utah to now this influencer in the community, providing a platform for our Black Utah community. And I just wanted to share with others, like, this is what can happen when you find passion and you find purpose in your life. And I feel like all of us are equipped with certain gifts, talents, and abilities. And once we find purpose and are driven by our passion, we can do some extraordinary things. And so through this book, my hope is that by sharing my journey, I can inspire others to really find, what they're passionate about, really kind of give meaning to why they exist here, because we all exist here for a reason. We're not exist to just go to work and come home, go to work and come home. We exist for a purpose. We exist to bring something to this earthly table And so I'm excited for people to really hear my story. It's like the first time I've ever become this vulnerable, to really kind of shed a light on my own experience and like where it can inspire others to, find their passion as well.
Mm. Well, I'm so grateful that we're working alongside with you to bring this book to life. And I just, I've loved seeing behind the scenes of your dedication to your craft, to reworking it, to really bringing forth the best book that you can to inspire so many. So thank you. And yeah, the fun part's about to happen on that book too. And
Oh, I can't wait for the fun part because I tell you, writing
yeah.
a book is not for the faint of heart. Why I decided to do it the third time around, but you just introduced me to this passion of like sharing um, my story, right? And so I just appreciate you and your whole team for taking a chance on me and being and the reason why I've been your longest standing partner for so long is because you continue to help give me this platform, and I'm grateful for that.
Mm. Well, it's so mutual, and I can't wait, yeah, to hear more from you and what you're teaching and sharing in the world right now. And so, without any further ado, I will, Sol, I'll have you take me off the spotlight. We'll give James center stage and welcome everyone. And happy to introduce you to James Jackson III. Thank you.
Right. Thanks, Kaylee. Well, thank you, everyone who's been a part of this summit, and I hope you're having an amazing experience. I can't wait to actually go back to the recordings. I just mentioned to Kaylee earlier, and you probably already heard that I accidentally booked myself. I double booked myself on accident. So I'm actually taking a lunch break from teaching the class now to share with you on this topic about mentors magnify, allies amplify. But before I dive into this topic, share a little bit about my background. This topic actually is coming from my book, Live with Purpose. So you'll see a highlight of this in my book, but you guys get the exclusive on a deeper dive into what this really means about mentors magnify and allies amplify. Because I feel like that's really been one of the main contributions to the success in my life with the Utah Black Chamber. I founded the Utah Black Chamber in 2009, September 9th, 2009. Easy for me to remember, 9/9 of 09, where I was this shy, young, ambitious dude. I was 27 years old at the time, involved in network marketing. And I think for those that are not familiar with Utah, Utah is like the network marketing capital of the world. I think we headquarter maybe a dozen or so network marketing companies. And if you're here long enough, you're going to be exposed to one or many of those. And I was one of those unfortunate victims, but I wouldn't necessarily call myself a victim because it provided me this opportunity to learn more about myself. It introduced me to personal development, introduced me to how to really grow myself. I had this corporate mindset of what I really wanted to do, but it opened my eyes up to where I can really find a more purposeful vehicle for the gifts that I was introduced to, back when I was a teenager. I've been public speaking since I was 13 years old. My grandfather took me on tour with the Baptist conventions and put me on a platform to say, "Hey, I would love for you to speak, a speaker at this Baptist convention." And of course, I love my grandfather so much, I couldn't say no. But what that introduced me to was this ability, this gift, this talent to, be in front of an audience and kind of share some knowledge. And I got hooked to where I continually wanted to deliver impact. And I just spent the rest of that time thinking about what would be the right vehicle for me to deliver this kind of impact. Network marketing kind of opened my eyes up to many more opportunities to do that, but indirectly helped me discover, founding the Utah Black Chamber. So I founded the Black Chamber in 2009, and then around 2014, took me 5 years to figure out how to really do it. Then it really started gaining growth. By 2018, from 2018 to 2022, it grew almost 400%, achieving about 400 members. We are the fastest growing chamber of commerce out of 70 chambers of commerce in the state of Utah. And we are the most diverse chamber in the state of Utah. And we're also one of the top 20 strongest Black chambers in the country out of 150 of them. And one of the main reasons behind that is on this topic of mentors magnify, allies amplify. Um, because as I just mentioned, like it was the main reason for the chamber succeeding. When I started chamber, I had no idea what I was doing, but I had this desire, I had this passion, um, and I really wanted this thing to work. I just didn't know how. In order to figure out how, I had to find a village around me for support in order to do that. Um, and so through this network, it was actually my dad who actually was introduced me to the Utah Hispanic Chamber. Long story, you can read about it in my book. Another shameless plug there. But so when I met the Utah Hispanic Chamber and I told them, hey, I'm looking to start a Utah Black Chamber, they got excited because they knew it was needed. And they literally and they heard my passion and just wrapped their arms around me with resources, showed me everything that they did. And what I took as a mentee was that I executed and committed to everything that they showed me because they were the ones willing to give me that platform, really provide me with those resources, right? So they met me, 80%, and I just had to go that 20. Like they really dove into me to a point where they just needed to give me 20 and I delivered 80. And so they really stuck by me for those first several years. And so, like I said, it took about 5 years for me to figure that out. But then once I did figure it out, people started coming to us and say, hey, we want to diversify talent within our workforce. We want to, we know we can do better at serving the Black community with our resources, and the information that we have. We know that the Black community is not receiving it as well. So how can we partner with you to really get this information out there, right? And so, and then our community would come to us to say, hey, James, we're struggling with this. We're struggling, and be able to communicate this. I have this, and then I'm able to get it here. And we would work together to identify organizations, companies, and individuals to really help get the message out. And so this is why the Black Chamber was so successful, is that we had these mentors that surrounded us to help us grow and develop, educate us, to help us be able to become successful. But we also had these allies that were around us to, make sure that our message was being distributed, that we were being heard in the right areas and with the right people in order for us to connect and build these bridges. And so when we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and the strategy behind, really elevating our diverse communities, whether they're women, LGBTQ, people of color, people with disabilities, veterans, whatever you define as diversity, one of the key strategies behind that is providing mentorship and allyship. I was listening to a TED Talk recently, and it talked about how an airplane travels, to where if the wind is behind an airplane, it can get to its destination faster than what the time reflects, right? Have you ever arrived at your destination 20, 30, 40 minutes earlier than anticipated, right? Because they're going by the mileage, but what they can't always predict is the weather and the wind, right? And so when you have a tailwind with an airplane, you can get to that destination a lot faster. On the opposite side, there's also what's called a headwind, right? To where it takes a little bit longer. So when you look at, traveling, and perhaps you're flying a different direction where they already expect a headwind to occur, it takes a little bit longer to get home than it does to get there. And one of the main reasons why is what's called a headwind, where that wind is pushing against the plane so that it doesn't, it prevents it from going as fast as it needs to in order to arrive at that destination. And so when we think about mentors and we think about allies, The mentors and these allies, they come equipped with a tailwind, right? They are a person of privilege, they're a person of position, they're a person of power. And because of that, they're able to get to their destination a lot faster. Whereas people of diverse communities, of diverse backgrounds, we encounter a headwind where there's challenges, there's barriers, there's stereotypes, there's prejudices, there's biases that slow us down and challenge us to, and takes us longer to get to our certain destination. And so when we think about that aspect, it's important that if we want all of us to arrive at the same destination on time, that we find ways to equip the diverse community. I guess not necessarily equip, but how do we turn their plane around so they experience a tailwind as well? You can create, employee resource groups. You can have a strong DEI strategy within, within the workplace, with whether a D&I officer, and all that is great. But none of this can be fully executed if you don't have the right mentorship surrounding those individuals. If you are not able to amplify their voices into the community, right? So what does that look like within the workplace as far as mentorship? If you think about someone that is, working and growing through their levels of work, right? With their experience and their background and education, they should be moving just as fast as their counterpart. But maybe this counterpart is a white male, has a position of privilege, right? Where they're maybe moving a little bit faster. So what is preventing that individual from moving at the same pace as the other one, right? And so this is where that mentorship comes in, is where we can actually magnify this person's abilities, because maybe it's not being as visible, right? Because of certain barriers or challenges that they're experiencing. And a lot of times these are internal barriers, and then these external barriers. The internal barriers are where they code switch. They try to just simply adapt so they can just feel accepted into the role, but they don't necessarily feel welcomed. They don't necessarily feel like they belong. So they're simply just looking to survive rather than thrive, right? Because they're afraid of being called this angry Black woman or this angry Black man, or, having these certain stereotypes pushed against them if they act a certain way, right? So they code switch in order to prevent any of that from happening. And what a mentor can do around them is share with them some experiences, share with them their background and how they're able to move through the different channels. A lot of times that these people just require a little bit of navigation, things that they just don't know about and scared to learn about because of their fear of the consequences that may arise from that, right? And so a mentor is there to just wrap their arms around them and to say, hey, I'm here for you. Let me show you the way. And a mentor doesn't even have to be a leader role, doesn't have to be in a C-suite, doesn't have to be an executive, doesn't have to be a director. It can be someone as simple as a colleague or a coworker that simply maybe has this more experience, right? Or maybe he just knows how to navigate this company better than you do, right? I remember when I was working at Morgan Stanley in their call center, right out of college, and I was really struggling on this one team to where this manager, he was just a micromanager, right? And he's always focused on the numbers, focused on the results. And I don't work well in that high pressure. But this other manager, everybody was really just drawn to her because she focused on the person and she elevated that person's skills and abilities. And because she magnified those skills and abilities, that person just automatically performed better, right? She didn't focus on their weaknesses or what they really didn't do well. She magnified their other abilities that were the stronger abilities, and that person just focused on those, and because of that they just performed better. And I was so fortunate I was able to change teams to be on her team, and because of that I was put on a faster track to where I got into a management role. And then I got more confident in my ability within that workplace. Uh, and I was introduced to more experiences because of my confidence, because I landed a manager role. You know, I was able to take these trips and be a subject matter expert for like a lot of project management stuff. They flew me out to New York to work with, you know, our tech people and our senior people to develop a better, more effective system for our representatives to service our customers and our financial advisors. But all that wouldn't have happened if I didn't have Kazua as a mentor, because she magnified my abilities, she magnified my skills, and showed me who I am rather than just focus so much on the numbers, right? So that's how mentors really magnify. Where allies come in is that when you feel like you're being challenged and your voice just simply isn't being heard, right? If you feel like you have really something to give but no one is listening to you, you know, you have a great project in mind, or you have an innovative idea, or you know things can change within the workplace if you can just provide this little guidance and no one is listening to you, you don't have that same kind of voice. That's what an ally can do, right? Ally can amplify that voice. And once again, it doesn't have to always be an executive. It doesn't always have to be a position of power. It can be, you know, a person of privilege, right? Because they have the look, you know, and it's unfortunate we still live in these kind of days, right? And this is why it's important that we connect with everybody so we can build this bridge and be on this common ground, so we can connect in a way that would able to identify allies to help amplify our voices when we just seem to can't get through to certain individuals, right? As the Black Chamber started to grow, um, we were being challenged of, you know, how to get things done. And so what I did is I built the bridge. I was working with Salt Lake Chamber. I started working with public government. I started working with city government and state government, even the federal government, started developing these partners in the small business resources. And they came in, they started attending our events and really started understanding what we were about and what we were doing. And because of that, they became our allies for us. It was like, you know what, you need to talk to the Black Chamber because they have this going on, or they're doing this, or, you know, have you ever thought about doing this way? The Black Chamber has this. And that's when the chamber really took off, is because we had these other voices really speaking on our behalf, to a point people were joining the chamber, not through our voice, but through what they've heard, through what they, from others and what they've seen, through just attending our events, that it didn't, to this day, it's not even that hard to go out and sell the Black Chamber membership. People just want to become engaged within what we have going on. In the social justice movement of 2020, from June to almost the end of August, we had someone joining the chamber every single day. Now, if you can imagine someone like me who was working this organization part-time around a full-time job, that was insane. It wasn't something I ever expected. And at first it was challenging to even ingest what's going on or even understand. But as I dove into it, most of these people are joining because they were wanting to become allies. They wanted to understand more about what the chamber is doing and how they can be a resource, how they can help us grow and provide for our members and our community. And they saw us as that voice for change, and so we can partner together. And that was what was really exciting, is that people believed in our cause, people believed in what we did, and then they introduced us to individuals who can carry our message a lot further than we could. And so that's the whole basis of Mentors Magnify, Allies Amplify. And what's awesome about this whole strategy or principle is this, is that when if you're even thinking about, mentorship is hard for me because I don't have a lot of time. Guess what? If you're a person of influence, people are already being mentored by you, believe it or not. I realized this, just a little while ago, just a couple of years ago. Well, people would email me, "Hey, I've been following you for a while, and I just appreciate the work that you're doing in the community. Um, I listened to this talk, and you've done so much for me for this. I appreciate that training. I don't know if you remember me, but I was there, right?" So people, when you're doing something that you're passionate about, right? People will follow you with fuel, either to light you up or to burn you down. Either way, you're mentoring them, right? They're learning from you. Think about your mentors. A lot of your mentors may not even be people that you have a personal relationship with. I have a lot of mentors I just listen to on a podcast. I have mentors that I just go to their church service and watch them preach. They probably don't even know who I am, right? I have very few mentors these days that I actually have a one-to-one relationship with, maybe two or three. The other ones, I just watch from afar. So believe it or not, there is that indirect mentorship where people are just watching you, right? Where all you have to do is just become an example. Just being an example is a mentor enough. Where they're just learning from what you're doing, but you're automatically magnifying some skills and abilities that maybe they didn't even know they had that can push them further. And they're like, "Oh, well, I didn't even realize that I had that type of ability." So that's awesome. And as far as allyship, it doesn't always have to be someone that has a big voice. We can all be allies. It doesn't always have to be a white male that's an ally. It can be anybody, right? I consider the chamber as an ally to our own community because our voice can project a lot larger than maybe a small business owner who's been trying to advocate a challenge or issue is not able to be received well. But we're an ally for them because they're a member of the chamber. We're here to help them in any capacity, right? And so we use our voice to talk to our own allies, right? So they're just third degree, they're first degree to us, right? But we talk to our mentors, we talk to our allies to say, "Hey, our member is struggling with this," right? If you're in the workplace and you're seeing someone who's just being constantly rejected, but you have a different relationship with that person that's constantly rejecting them, or you can go to them and say, "Hey, you should really listen to Kaylee. She knows what she's talking about, right? I think her idea would be great. Maybe if you just give her a chance," and that can change the whole trajectory of what happens if you, being discouraged by it. That other person who's just a coworker, but maybe just has a different relationship, can go in and make things happen. And we should be grateful for those type of allies. A lot of times, I feel like these, individuals use their privilege in the wrong way, where they feel like they can just get over on you, right? They because they have the relationship, they can just take your place that you think that you deserve. But this is where it's important, is where if you develop a strong relationship, if you develop that connection with those individuals, right? Where it shows more as cooperation instead of competition. I don't know who made up this word cooperation, but I took it, right? To where you are elevating each other because you see greatness in each other and you're stronger together. That now there's the playing field is leveled, right? Where they're providing allyship to you to magnify your capabilities, right? Or being a mentor to you to magnify your capabilities, and they're making sure that your voice is heard just as well as theirs, right? And that's the type of connections you can build throughout your workplace, throughout your community, and church, wherever you desire to become this person of influence, wherever. And this is how we really solve the challenges within diversity, equity, inclusion. Now, we just have to be mentors to each other, and we have to be allies to each other. When we feel our voice is being heard where others are not, we can speak up for them, right? If we have these skills and abilities and experiences, it's important that we share these experiences with others so they can learn from our mistakes. They can learn from our wisdom, and they can continually grow. Right. So, I mean, this mentors, magnify, allies, amplify principle doesn't always have to be regarding diversity, equity, inclusion. Right. It can be for anybody at any place at any time. But it's a key element within diversity, equity, inclusion, because this is where it is most needed. To create an equitable playing field, we just need others to make our voices louder, and to make sure that our skills, our abilities are being seen, and they're being heard and not judged based on our background. Because we have someone like a Kaylee, we have someone like a Richard who's magnifying our abilities for us. So I appreciate this time and speaking with y'all today. Kaylee, thank you so much, and Soul Excellence team, for giving me an opportunity to talk about something that I'm passionate about, is mentors, magnify, allies, amplify. I came up with this term like last year, speaking on some panel, and I think the use of alliteration always sticks with people. So when you think about what does a mentor do, what they magnify. What does an ally do? That amplifies. Like, oh, that works. That way people know exactly how they can be a better ally. They just need to amplify the voice. How can they be a mentor? What is magnify someone's abilities through sharing their own experiences? So once again, thank you guys so much. And Kaylee, I will just turn it back over to you.
Yeah, I'll just hop in real quick and say thank you, James. And I too love the alliteration. It's so memorable. And you gave me a lot to think about personally too, of what does it mean to be a mentor in today's age? And maybe, I don't find myself in a traditional workplace. And yet what you kind of brought to my attention is like, just by sharing, by connecting, by having a podcast, like this is mentorship in the one-to-many way. And it actually made me think of how to take that maybe responsibility a bit more seriously at times, of like, ooh, what does that mean when the lights are on? And therefore, what do I want to say? And so I appreciate you just kind of having that click with me personally on today's call. And I just love that we're able to collaborate in so many different ways now on a summit. I'm super excited for your book. Everyone get ready. You're going to hear a lot about it. Live with Purpose, June 16th by James Jackson. And if you haven't already read or purchased your copy of Black Utah, please do. All proceeds support the Utah Black Chamber. James, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us here in the summit. I appreciate you. And yeah, let's get ready to do the fun part of your book launch after all the hard work. Thank you.
Yes, please. Let's do this fun part. I'm excited. This is going to be, I'm excited for it all. Someone already wanted to book me for a book signing. I was like, oh, it's really going to be happening.
Yes, you're in. We just got to find your perfect pen, and carry with you at all times now. Like your pen and your book copies, they're just going to go with you everywhere.
Yep, I'm going to be carrying those books like people used to carry mixtapes.
Oh, well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Our special guest speaker, James Jackson III, founder of the Utah Black Chamber, overall community builder. Thank you again, James. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. Appreciate it. Bye now.
Yeah, thanks. See ya.